Hello, and welcome to another episode of the White Lightning Podcast. It has been a while. It has been a little less than 2 weeks. I apologize. I'm your host, Ben Wheeler. After a couple months, Ben Crawford has returned. What's up, Ben? How you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be back. Happy
Yep.
for the NBA to be back in full swing.
Yep. The Lakers Nuggets game is currently paused on my TV right now to do this episode. I can't believe it's already here. It felt like yesterday I was watching the Heat and the Nuggets play in the finals, and we're finally here. A lot to talk about. I talked about it a lot this summer. There was a couple things that I did not review that I would love to talk about that happened maybe a month ago. With two teams out in the East that we all know, Bucks and Boston. I'm excited to get into that. I want to talk about our teams. I want to talk about the Cavs, obviously. You see the banner right there. And I want to end it with our hot take NBA champion of the 2023-2024 NBA season. So what do you think about that?
I love it. I love it. I'm excited to be talking hoops and yeah, a lot happened in this offseason. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And without further ado, I say let's do it. I say let's
All
do it.
right.
And let's start with our team. I want to talk about our team. And I think there's a lot to talk about. It's great material. I want to kind of give my whole headspace from April to now
All right,
because
let's
it
hear
was
it.
a lot. I will say this. The Knicks series that happened in early April still to this day leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Absolutely.
I think the whole series summarized was that everything that we have worked for over the last 2 years, our entire identity for the last 2 years was completely gone in a matter of 2 weeks. Ever since we drafted Mobley, Garland started to become an all-star. Allen started to become an all-star. You know, we're going to outman you. We're going to out-physical you. We have more heart. We play hard. We're scrappy. Like that was our thing was we were young. We were fresh. We were hot. You know what I mean? And we were legitimately scared. I felt like we looked a complete shell of ourselves. Almost it was like, and I think we all agreed was, what team is this? This was not the team that we watched the entire regular season. And to be honest, it has left a bad taste in my mouth for the regular season this year because it's like, I'll see you in April. I'll see you in April because of
Absolutely.
everything, because we watched every regular season game. It felt like we took times out of our day for a random Wednesday in November to stop what we're doing to watch the Cavs, and it didn't matter. Some things that really made me mad and what needs to be fixed was everyone had a bad game in that Knicks series. And I want to talk about this Knicks series right now because I think it kind of sets the tone for the season coming up. Was everybody played bad in that Knicks series, and everybody had moments of playing poor. The first one that comes to mind is Donovan Mitchell, game 4, probably one of the biggest games of his career, has 11 points, shoots 5 for 18. My all-star center, Jared Allen, is
Oh God.
for the most part invisible. Yeah, what I think of him is not PG for this.
Yeah.
What I think of him and what I really want to say is not family friendly. What stunned me the most with Allen and with Mobley was I was not prepared for them to get outplayed by Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. And the
Yeah.
box score won't really show that. And, the field goal percentage and all that, but pure outmanned, out physical, and like doing what a center is supposed to do, Robinson and Hartenstein were better.
Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, we built this whole identity you kind of talked about throughout not even just this season, but past seasons, of being a physical team. We have the junkyard dog train, Other teams are getting inspired by that. They're kind of copycatting with their own like defensive chains after games and stuff. We got one of the best defenses in the NBA. We come in kind of thinking we're tough. We're not going to get pushed around. And there's good reason to think that. We played the whole season well. And kind of like you said, it kind of, in a way, makes you scared to trust a regular season again because you
Right?
can come into a series where most of the national media is saying, like, yeah, this is going to be a close series, but the Cavs are going to take it maybe in 6, but maybe earlier than that. And then to come out and lose how we did. And really, I mean, outside of game 2, I mean, we really, you know, we put up a fight, I guess, but there was really none of that regular season Cavs that you saw. There was no physicality. There was no junkyard dog. As Jared Allen said, and people clowned him, including myself. But like it did seem like the lights were too bright. I mean,
Yeah.
as terrible as it is to say, they just completely lost their identity and got lost in the moment.
A player literally admitting that is insane, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
like, think about that. A literal guy at his profession, what he's paid to do was like, yeah, it was too big of a moment for a guy
Bro
that's already
became,
had been there before. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think for this series, the two other things I really want to say is I was worried about the Knicks going into the series more than other people are. And I think you and I were on the same page, to be honest. I was like, we should win this series, but this team's not a pushover. And my thought process was if we lose in 6 or lose in 7, we say, you know what? They have experience. Thibodeau, or, the head coach, Tom Thibodeau has been there before. The players have been there before. Brunson has been there before. Randall. It is what it is, right?
yeah. They're a good squad. Yeah.
We got gentlemen swept, and we were the favorite in the series.
Yes.
That's what rubbed me the wrong way. Was it wasn't not even a series. And after game 1, I was like, this could be really bad. And it was. And another big thing, a staple for me for the series was we had the best player in this series. We have Donovan Mitchell. Like that was the main core was we have the best player in the series. We probably have the second best player in the series as well.
We have like I would say probably 3 of the top 5 players in the series. At least that's what I had thought going into it with Donovan, Garland, and I really did think Mobley.
Yeah.
And I think you put Brunson and Randall above Mobley going into that series, and then maybe that fifth person's a toss up. So,
and who was the best player in that series?
well, I mean, Jalen Brunson cooked.
That was the problem.
Julius Randle, I mean, he was who I was scared of, and he really did not do much. And yeah, I mean, Brunson cooked. I thought that they played well as a team. I thought RJ Barrett came in at times and did his thing, which I was really not expecting in some instances, given how shaky he's been at times. And then, like you were alluding to earlier, I mean, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein dominating the boards. I mean, those guys, they, like you said, they might not pop off on the stat sheet. They're not like the most glamorous guys, but when you look at that game and you watch it, they were setting the tone. They're the ones who are getting those offensive rebounds, kicking it out to Brunson. They're the ones who are taking possessions away from us. It was hard to watch.
Yeah. And I think the problem was Brunson was the best player in that series. And I don't think it was really debatable. And there were even moments during the series where it was like RJ Barrett's outplaying Darius Garland. RJ Barrett is outplaying Darius Garland. Like
right.
That's when that's when I knew I lost was Jalen Brunson was the best player in the series. We were getting pushed around. A great stat was the Knicks had 75 offensive rebounds that series. The Cavs had 46. Think about that for a second. I mean, a 30-point differential, and I know that's like one stat, but that stat felt like the basis of the series was like, yep, that summarizes the series. We were not doing what we were supposed to do. We're getting pushed around. We got outmanned, and I'm glad that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't think we can talk about this season coming up without addressing what the heck happened in April,
Yeah. And, it felt like one of those things where, like you were saying, going into it, I think you just wanted to win that first series, that first, post LeBron playoff series. You get it under your belt, even if you get swept in the next series by the Bucks or Celtics or whoever it may be. Then, you go home and you say, okay, that was a great building block. We won a series against a good team. But we got gentlemen swept and we were the lower seed. We played 3 games down and we got gentlemen swept. So I was happy though to see that like the things that we diagnose as being the problem, not being physical. I think some spacing issues, it does seem like the team addressed in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think getting Tristan Thompson, he may be a vet, he may be old, he's not going to have the same production as he did back when he was originally on the Cavs. That's a guy who can go out there and move bodies,
Right.
He's a guy who, like, I'm not saying this wins us the next series, but you have a guy like that who can go in there and get a body on a body, and all of a sudden you're looking at 6 games. And that addressed the need. We pick up or we trade for Max Strus. Great signing, spreads the floor, good shooter, doesn't need to have the ball in his hand. Even getting guys like Damian Jones as backup center, just getting some more depth there, some guys that are strong, physical. I think that says a lot, and I think it like affirms what we're saying about the reasons we lost that series. Getting out physical, not having enough shooting. I think that I wouldn't count on Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland playing as subpar as they did. I would hope. I mean,
Right.
those are the guys
Yeah.
we've invested in, and hopefully, when it comes around for hopefully this upcoming playoffs, they don't shy away from the moment. But I think that really affirms what we saw in the Knicks series by what they did in the offseason.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that was the thing was we didn't make that trade that moved the needle this offseason, which is fine, but we recognized our holes and addressed them. I think a big problem in that Knicks series, like what you said, was we had no shooting. And it was pretty much we're going to pack the paint. We're going to force Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and even LeVert and Okoro to try to make a three. And we're going to cut off what Mitchell and Garland do best, get downhill and kick it out. Or,
Absolutely.
them creating enough space to shoot a three. They didn't have that space. So we get Max Strus. He had a bad finals, but he's a 35% shooter in the regular season. Niang, I think, is a little fun little addition. He's a 40% three-point shooter, And, like Ty Jerome, Damian Jones, Tristan Thompson, like what you said, like we get those bench guys that I don't know what their role is, but they fitted a need. But I think that Max Strus signing and that Niang signing was more of just like, you have to respect that now. You can't play us at like how you did against the Knicks series, And I think that gives more room to Mitchell. I think that gives more room to Garland. And for the regular season, I think we're better because of the additions we made.
Absolutely. And when you think about the composition of our team, we have a power forward and a center who, as much as we'd love Mobley, and I think that he can get to the point where he's truly stretching the floor and shooting threes at a consistent rate, he's not quite there yet.
Right.
I forget his exact stats, but I know he's probably shooting below 30% from three.
Absolutely.
For his career.
Yeah.
And that's on limited attempts. Jared Allen is not a 3-point shooter. I would be surprised if he took more than 10 threes this entire season, most of them probably coming at the end of the shot clock. So in today's NBA, normally either your center or power forward can at least stretch the floor. Since we don't have that, I think you have to have the other three players on the court being able to be above average 3-point threats. And I think that we have that now. I think Strus is at least an average 3-point threat. Like you said, in the playoffs or in the finals, he stunk it up, to be honest.
Yeah, right. He shot 18% from three in the finals, by the way.
Yeah, but when you look at his entire year last year, he was good the whole year. So we can just, keep that in mind. But also, I mean, Garland and Mitchell, great 3-point shooters. So when you're looking at that, and if you're plugging Strus into your starting five, that's 3 very good 3-point shooters on the perimeter. That makes you feel a little bit better about starting a power forward and center who don't shoot threes.
Exactly. And, we watched that Nuggets series. We watched the Lakers series when they played against each other. We watched the Heat and the Celtics series. I think it's safe to say, Nuggets, out of the 5 starters, all 5 of them can shoot a three.
Oh, yeah.
Heat, out of the 5 starters, 4 of them could shoot a three. Celtics, all 5 of them could shoot a three. You know what I mean? And we
especially now with the Celtics.
Especially now with the Celtics with what they have, And the Cavs versus the Knicks, the Cavs were like, we have 2 shooters, maybe 3 if Okoro shows up. And like that's just not the mold. So that's my thing is I hopefully we don't get NBA Finals Strus, but you feel more comfortable to fit in this current NBA. You know what I mean? Where it's like, we have more than 2 shooters out there. You're going to have to play a little bit farther out on us.
Absolutely. And then it makes it easier for when you're playing against teams like the Knicks who have, more physical centers like Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, because all of a sudden then they can't just be committed to sitting in the paint and being around there. You got to bring them out maybe a little bit more to help on pick and rolls and whatnot. I'd also just like to say about that Knicks series, it's kind of funny. The scapegoat the entire season seemed to be Karis LeVert. You know, he was inconsistent all
right?
season, and he actually had he was one of the better players on the Cavs during that series. And I would hope that maybe he got some confidence in where he fits going into this season. Because I think a lot of us forget about him because he is so inconsistent. But I think maybe with having you know, a little bit less pressure on him to be that in some cases like third option with the ball in his hand. You know, we have more shooting around the team. We have, in my opinion, more depth. So I think I liked what I saw out of him in that Knicks series as compared to the rest of the team. And hopefully that can be like a good jumping off point for him with this team, and we can get him to be more consistent in a more limited role.
Totally agree. That's what was funny was the guy that I have given more crap more than any Cavalier in these past 2 years was the only guy in the Cavs series where it was like, yeah, he showed up, and that was
Yeah,
LeVert. You know, he averaged 15 points per game for us. He was the third highest scorer, you know,
yeah,
and he was fifth in the regular season, you know. So out of all the crap I gave him, he was the only guy that showed up. And I agree. I think he is an X factor piece as well. Can he continue that good play against the Knicks? Plus Strus getting, us getting Strus. Can Mobley be better? And it's funny with LeVert and with the basis of this whole thing and going into this next season, you just kind of have to hope your players get better. That's it. That's
yeah,
the weird thing is, we got shooting with Strus, we got shooting with Niang, we got some backup center depth, but it's still the core four of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen. And you just kind of have to hope they play better. You have to hope Garland becomes that all-star like he was 2 years ago. Mobley has to get stronger and grow into his body. Allen can't be soft anymore. He can't get pushed around by Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein. So that's what kind of the season relies on in a weird way
yeah,
is we just got to play better. The
yeah.
guys got to show up. Mobley has to make that big leap everybody's talking about. And I think that's the core of the season truly is, can our guys just improve? I just think that's the core.
Yeah. And I think that it's good because we have the baseline from the regular season where we know that these guys can win games. The question is going to be, will it translate to the
Exactly.
playoffs? And I think when we traded for Donovan Mitchell, we kind of made that move of, okay, this is our core four. Like you
Right.
said, this is, unless Donovan Mitchell doesn't come back, we're not going to have most likely some huge swing free agent or trade for a star. Now we're just trying to win in the margins and hope that the core four just continues to grow and get better. And I think we did win in the margins with all the guys that we picked up in the offseason. Yeah, maybe it's not like something that completely moves the needle to like, oh, we are so much better than last year, but it's definitely improvements. And we're just banking on our investment developing. It's good to see Mobley put on a little bit of weight. Some people would have maybe liked to see a little bit more. Um, I think he put on like 8 pounds or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, I just want to see more physicality. I want to see better. I don't even want to say handles because people associate that with like guards, like cross
Right.
ups and
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
But I want to, when he does his power dribble, when he gets the ball in the post, I don't want the ball to go flying 5 feet out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Jared Allen, I think just mentality, we call him Pokemon Go boy.
Yeah.
He can be a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of a nice guy, the sweetheart. I'd like to see a little bit of a dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Yeah.
want him to go out there and like be the guy. I want him to get like 5 technicals this year. I want him to be the
Right.
guy getting in people's faces, being dominant. He's got a good build. No, he's not like the biggest dude, but like I know he's strong. He's 7 foot. Like he has the physical attributes to be a good center, especially on the defensive end
Yeah.
and rebounding. So I think it's just more mentality for him. And I'm not worried about Donovan or Garland. I trust them. I think that their resumes so far in their career speak for themselves. Um, but yeah, it really is just kind of banking on the core four to get to where they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You summarized it greatly. I mean, out of each individual player, as Mitchell continue to be great, and translate the regular season to the playoffs, you got to be consistent the whole series. Garland, you have to go back to how you were 2 years ago. And like what you said about Mobley and Allen, get stronger. Mobley has to be able to get that stretch big, like everybody was saying, and you're absolutely right. It's this core four. And this is a very big season, too, with Donovan Mitchell. Because everyone knows the rumors about, Bill Simmons said yesterday and 2 days ago that the worst kept secret is Donovan Mitchell. Like, it's no secret throughout the media and the league that, and Mitchell has openly admitted that he thought he was going to be a Knick. And he wanted to be a Knick. What is the argument to get him back if you lose like how you did last year? If you're a first round bounce again this year, if you don't make a deep playoff run, are we confident he's just going to re-sign with us? This is a really big year for the future. You have to compete this year. You have to be legit.
It almost feels like at this point, just winning a series isn't going to be enough. It almost feels like you expected last year. The expectation is just win a series. Now, I don't think the expectation has changed just because we underperformed.
Yeah.
I think that like guys like Donovan Mitchell, who, they're trying to win rings. All those guys are. And with his, contract situation coming up, you're trying to figure out, is this going to be a team I can win a ring with?
Right.
And if you have back-to-back years where you're really not contending, you're just making the playoffs, that's not what it is. I mean, I think this year, if we win a series and get another series at least to 6 games, I think that's a great selling point. Like, hey, we're close to being conference finals contend, but I think you win 2 series and he comes back. But I think absolutely if we get a first round bounce again, I wouldn't come back if I were him. I mean, why would you? I mean, yeah, it looks good on paper, but you don't want to waste time in your career.
No, and I just, if I'm Mitchell, it's like I just watched a team that I wanted to go beat us, and what does this year look like? And again, like what you said, what are you really selling him at this point if you lose back-to-back in the first round? I think overall, my overall season outlook for the Cavs is I think they will be better than the regular season. I think they're a better team than they were in April. Pure fitting the role. Now it just comes to, can we play to our potential? You can't lose to the Knicks again. That series can't happen anymore. We've all the young guys that got a series under their belt. There you go. That can't happen anymore. The 76ers are getting worse. You can't lose to the Knicks. Except for the Bucks and the Celtics that we're about to get into, the Cavs have to be up there with them. You have to either meet them in the Eastern Conference Finals or you have to make a really, really good second round fight against them.
Well, I feel confident. I think the Cavs have the 3rd best roster in the East.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I don't even know if that's a hot take anymore. I think it is. I think it is the 3rd best roster in the East. But I don't think that means that doesn't necessarily translate to playoff success. Because guess what? Last year, we were the 4th best roster.
Right.
Like you said, the 76ers, they get a little bit worse. I think we get a little bit better. I think we move up a little bit. And obviously, I mean, the Bucks and the Celtics, I think if you lose to one of those teams in the playoffs in the second round or the conference finals, then you feel okay about that. You say, okay, we went up against a monster, but we know that we're on that level now.
Right.
But if we're losing to the Hawks, if we lose to the 76ers, I have a bad taste in my mouth about it. If we lose to the Knicks again, I think we're better than those teams. I'm hoping this past playoffs was just an anomaly. Maybe some first round or some first time error. But I think on paper, I mean, it's a great roster. There's a lot to love. So I don't know if you want to talk about the Bucks and the Celtics because there's a lot to fear there.
Yeah.
As a Cavs fan.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about what we want to talk about the Cavs. I think the main theme is you got to show that you're with the best. That's what this season's all about. And the best right now, and I'm excited to get into it, is the Bucks and the Boston Celtics. And I want to talk about the Bucks first because I never made a video right after the Damian Lillard trade. I think you and I agree on this. I love it for Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
I just love it. I love it for them. I really do. And here was my ultimate theme for the trade. I don't think you can be in the Milwaukee front office or a Milwaukee player and lose to the Heat the way you did, a gentleman's sweep, when you were the 1 seed and they were the 8 seed, and just run it back. That feels like a loss where you just can't run it back. And I understand Giannis was hurt for 2 games. He came back and they still lost. I mean, they lost 2
Yeah.
games when he was on the court. I just don't feel comfortable with you just running it back. And
No.
they watched Beal go to the Suns. They watched Porzingis go to the Celtics. They watched these teams getting better, and they knew, And I think the one last thing was I remember in that game 5, and this just summarizes why the Damian Lillard trade makes so much sense to me. In the last 8 minutes of the game, Giannis was responsible for more than 50% of the shots, And I just think the overall theme was, let's give it to Giannis. Drew gets the ball. He's giving it to Giannis. Milton gets the ball. He gives it to Giannis. Lopez looks at the rim, then gives it to Giannis. They just need another scorer out there in those crunch time minutes. Them blowing that game in game 5 was like, this is why we need Dame. It was 86 to 102 going into the fourth quarter. We need a Dame to help out Giannis to close this out. We're done just looking at Giannis. You needed a guy in that moment to continue the series to help carry the load. Damian Lillard does do that. I think that game 5 was the complete summary of why you needed Damian Lillard, really.
I totally agree. And for as great as Giannis is, one of the best players in the world, surefire Hall of Famer, honestly, one of the greatest athletes that's ever been in the NBA. It sounds sinful to say, and there might be a lot of negative reactions to this, but his offensive game is one-dimensional. He gets to the rim and he scores. He's more physical than you. He's more athletic than you. Yeah, he tries to shoot jumpers and stuff, but he gets the ball, he goes downhill, nobody's stopping him. But guess what? Guys get tired. You might have big bodies you put in front of him that bang him up. And sometimes you need some more diversity in your shot diet as a team. Yeah, they have Drew. Yeah, they have Chris Middleton. Those guys are solid. But guess what? They just went out. They said, yeah, we won a ring a couple years ago, but we're not content with that. We're going out and they got one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah.
A guy who's Mr. Loyalty, never leave Portland. They went out and got him. And now I think it'll be interesting, but at the end of the game, it's a tie game. You got 10 seconds on the clock. Who's taking the shot? I think Dame, because he can get downhill. He's obviously an elite shooter. He can do so much one-on-one. So when you're taking the ball out of the best player in the world's hands, your team's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just they got
a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
It's not just they got a shooter. They got one of the best shooters, one of the most clutch players in the NBA.
In league
they
history.
Got somebody. Yeah, I mean, truly. You got to guard the guy from 40 feet away from the rim.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, or else he's going to be waving to you like he did to Paul George. I mean, it's it's ridiculous.
Right.
So
yeah,
I know we talked about this, and a lot of NBA fans, I'm sure, will be excited to see those pick and rolls with Giannis, pick and rolls with Brook Lopez and Dame, and just all the stuff they can do. I mean, it went from being, you have a one-headed monster with Giannis, and then you kind of have the secondary guys, Chris Middleton, great player, Drew, Brook Lopez. I mean, all these guys are solid, but now it's a two-headed monster, and I think their games are going to complement each other beautifully.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a beautiful fit. I think it's a beautiful fit. I really do. And you're absolutely right. Name any team, except for the 2017 Warriors, where it's the best player on the planet and you feel comfortable with the other guy having the ball. That.
Exactly.
That is a luxury that really nobody else has in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
I just think it makes sense. And what's funny? A big point that I kept on seeing on NBA media, and people were saying this, was they're going to miss Drew's defense. They're going to miss Drew's defense. They're going to miss Drew's defense. Are we talking about the Drew Holiday that Jimmy Butler averaged 37 points per game on? You know what I mean? It's He's still great. And obviously, Jimmy Butler, cap off to him. But this is an offensive league. Drew Holiday's offensive game doesn't even rival Damian Lillard's. And this is a scoring league. They're going to have growing pains. I could see for the first 20, 30 games, it's weird. And they're going to have some guys play off ball. But I think it works. I really do think it works.
And love Drew. I mean, really good player, a guy that anybody would want to have on their team. I mean, he brings a lot. High IQ. He's a veteran at this point. Solid on offense, nothing crazy, but good defender. But I mean, you're right. It is an offensive league. at the end of the day, great offense is going to beat great defense. And they just got one of the best offensive players in the world. And I think maybe you think like, oh yeah, the defense, but I think once they start rolling, it's not even going to be a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, they do, I think, still have good defensive players. Giannis is an elite defender. I think Chris Middleton's a good defender. I mean, Brooke Lopez was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be really good.
Yeah.
Their offense just got so much more dynamic. I'm scared for how the Cavs are going to have to guard them.
Right.
And I think every team is thinking that because you can't stop Giannis, but even if you can, you still got to have someone on the perimeter who's locked down on Dame. So it's going to be crazy. I love the trade for them. I love that they're aggressive, even though they're already a good team. I love how they took that loss in the first round to the Heat. They took it to heart and they went out. And if I'm a Bucks fan, I'm feeling very happy with the front office
Yeah.
and what the team's looking like right now.
And it's so funny is that to kind of before I transition to the Bucks to the Boston Celtics was Giannis said in an interview earlier this summer was, anything could happen. If my franchise doesn't look like they want to try to compete, I'm open to anything. They signed they trade for Damian Lillard 2 days ago. He signs a 3-year contract extension. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, not only did you get better, but you got security for the best player on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Other than Nikola Jokic, obviously. It's them too, vice versa, whatever you want to do. You get security for the best player that you have ever in franchise history, and you got better. So I love that for them. I'm going to talk about their rival and the team that they'll probably play in the Eastern Conference Finals, unless I can't even imagine the conversations we had if that's not the matchup, is the Boston Celtics. I said in the summer when the Porzingis trade happened, I loved it. He's coming off his best year ever. It's 23 points per game. He averaged a lot of blocks. He was 1.5 blocks per game. He's one of the not a top 5 rim protector, but definitely a solid rim protector. He stretches the floor. The only thing concerning him is health. That's it. That's really only it. And he's coming off his healthiest season last year with the Wizards. So I love that trade for them. And then they get Drew Holiday, which is funny. Obviously, we just got done talking about Drew Holiday. I question how good Drew Holiday is, compared to when they won the finals. I think he's better than Marcus Smart, and it's funny. I have something listed on my paper from the interview from the episode I did in April was you just need a facilitator now. You just got that, and you got one better than Marcus Smart. And I just said my whole theme for that whole playoff series was the Heat was you cannot rely on Marcus Smart to be your third scoring option. They need more scoring depth. Tatum and Brown cannot do it all. Well, they got 2 guys that are very capable scorers. I love their team too. I just think that's a fit that makes sense. I just really think it makes sense.
The Celtics make a ton of sense. I mean, there was a lot of discussion during last season about whether the Celtics were going to blow it up. And it's crazy. You think they have, although they don't have a ring, they've proven they can win in the playoffs. I mean, from the time when Tatum and Brown were young guys in the league and them taking the Cavs to 7 games, all the way to now. I mean, they are contenders basically every year. And you look at that and you say, okay, so what did they do? They get a better facilitator who, I mean, maybe a little bit worse, but probably just as good of a defender as Marcus Smart. I mean, somebody who's going to be a glue guy, doesn't need to take shots, but is somebody who can facilitate, have the ball in his hands, run the offense. Okay, that's great. Then what do? They go out and they get Kristaps Porzingis. And I know I at times have been low on Porzingis because of availability, like you mentioned. And also, I think sometimes when he's in situations where he's the main guy, I worried about him because there had been some inconsistencies, at least when he was younger. But guess what? He's doesn't have to be the main guy every night. He's got Jason Tatum, who's an MVP caliber player, Jaylen Brown, and then it's him. I mean,
right.
Stretch the floor. You're going to be getting a lot better looks. You don't have to isolate as a 7-footer. It's just a fit that makes sense. It is. I mean, he's a unicorn. He's a 7-footer who shoots threes at a high clip and can do just about anything on the floor. It just makes total sense. I love what they have cooking there. And then, I mean, they already had a solid roster as it is. You got like role guys like Derek White, who like maybe they don't do the glamour stuff, but they're the dudes who come in and give you a burst of energy.
Had a great series against the Heat. Great
Had a
series.
great series
Yeah,
against the
14
Heat.
points per game.
Yeah. And it's just like the roster makes sense. They're going to be well coached. It's a great franchise. It does just seem weird. It would be weird if it wasn't them and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Something happened if it wasn't them. Truly. Yeah. And again, it's funny. You're asking guys that I questioned how good they were to do less, and I think it's going to be better for them. Like all playoffs, I was questioning, can Tatum be that top guy on a finals team? Can he lead the team? He's still going to have to, but he has a lot more help. Porzingis, I don't know if he's a second option on an NBA title team. I think he's a third option on an NBA title team. You know what I mean? Drew Holiday, same thing. I don't know if he could be a second option. He could be a fourth option at this point, Yeah. So I love it for them. I just think it's a talent league, and I think that, we've seen super teams fail. But I just think these are a core group of guys that I think will figure it out. The Celtics have a history of winning. They've won with Tatum and Brown. They needed to move the needle, and they did. So
they absolutely did. And I mean, it just seemed like, the formula they had was good, but it wasn't quite good enough. And I think this is a team that could win a championship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to see how it all meshes together, and there might be those growing pains, but on paper, they have the talent. A lot of shooters out of your top players. If Jaylen Brown can learn to dribble with his left hand, I think they'll be good.
Yeah.
Sorry for the shade there, Jaylen.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as a Cavs fan, you hate it, but as a basketball fan, I think they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the thing with the Bucks too is that you can't lose to the Heat like that, the way you did, and not do anything. And they got better at every position.
Absolutely.
So I think that's very interesting. And to talk about guys and teams that we think could win it all, I think I want to cap off the episode of who we think can win it all. I think that's very interesting to think about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lead the charge if that's all right. Unless you want to say it. I
no, you got it.
Okay.
No, you got it. I want to hear you first.
So I've had this marinate in my brain for a couple weeks now. NBA season was starting, and I'm thinking, who do I think can win the finals? Who is my NBA champion? I went on a limb, and this is going to be a hot take to some people. I have the Los Angeles Lakers winning the finals this year. Here is why. Here is my argument for why they're going to win the finals, okay? This is a hot take, right? But I really do believe it. One, let's look at personnel. This is the best team that they have had since 2020. Truly, the NBA finals season, that's the best team that they've had. Secondly, they are all healthy again. LeBron was hurt. AD was hurt. And obviously that could be a reoccurring theme for this team, but it's just what it was. They were hurt against the Nuggets. That was obvious. Thirdly, their third best player, D'Angelo Russell, was a no-show for the Western Conference Finals against the Nuggets. And I think we're talking about a team that's getting healthier. They got better. They brought back Reeves. They brought back Rui. They added Taurean Prince, who's starting for them tonight. They added Gabe Vincent, which is a really interesting add. And they threw this team together in January, and we're the second best team in the West. Now you get a full summer with them. They're all healthy. They're maturing. They're figuring out how to play together. And here is my thing as well. I think that we're looking at LeBron's last ride. I do. I think if it's not this year, it's absolutely next year. And don't you think if they win the finals this year, he would retire? I think if he wins the finals this year, I think he'd be done. And I think that's the theme for this team is they're all healthy. They want to win it. They want to win it now. And I think they have a legit shot to do that truly. And I love to see them against the Nuggets this time with everybody healthy and this full team being together for a full season.
I agree. I personally, I picked the Lakers to beat the Nuggets in the playoffs last year just
Yeah.
because of how hot they were. Uh, and you're right. I mean, they did. They made all those trades close to the deadline and picked up. Completely revamped the roster for the better. I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
No.
And the results show. I mean, they became one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Health is always the question with them.
Yep.
Is AD going to be healthy? LeBron, who typically you never have to worry about his health, he's getting old.
Yeah.
Um, if they remain healthy, I could absolutely see them winning the finals. I love their roster. I think, I mean, AD and LeBron are one of the most perfect pair of teammates that I could think of as far as like playing style. They're both dynamic players, can shoot, get to the rim, physical when healthy. Reeves is just such a fun player to watch. I mean, just a guy who really felt like he came out of nowhere. And he plays with so much confidence, and I think his teammates love him. And then those guys around the fringes, I think Rui is going to have a good year. I think he's just in a good place for what he brings to the table. I could absolutely see it. I think it is a little bit of a hot take, though. I don't think that
Yeah.
most people would think that. I think they can win the finals. I actually think the winner of the finals is going to be a team from the East. And I think this is a little bit of a standard take, and I'm sorry to the viewers because it's not hot like yours was, but it's hard for me to look at the Bucks roster and not just see Dame holding up his first Larry O'Brien trophy. It's hard for me to see that. I mean, they're stacked. They will have a difficult road in the playoffs potentially if they face the Celtics, so maybe they get beat up. But it's just hard not to pick them. They're a monster. I think other teams out of the West, I mean, I think the Nuggets, another kind of bland pick. I'm really excited to see some of the teams in the West, though, who kind of showed some promise last year. I think the Thunder are going to be fun. I mean, they were one of the hottest teams. I know you love the Thunder. They were one of the
Yeah.
hottest
I
teams in the
love them, man.
NBA in the second half of the season. They started a little slow, but they came out hot. They got some young players. Um, you always got to watch out for the Warriors. They're always kind of that thorn in your side that, like, you know, any team that has Steph Curry on it could make a run.
Yeah.
The Clippers, if healthy, uh, I don't think they're a contender, but like you just look on paper and you see those big names, and it's hard not to at least imagine it. I think it's going to be interesting. I hate to leave other teams out. I think the Lakers are going to be probably the second best team in the West behind the Nuggets. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and then out of the East, I as much as I'd love the Cavs to be a contender, I think there's really only two contenders, and I think it's the Bucks and the Celtics. So,
And you got the Bucks holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy.
and I got the Bucks holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy, probably over the Lakers in 6 games.
Okay. Okay.
That,
All
that's
right. That's
my
the take.
that's
That's
my
the take.
take.
All right.
Um,
All right. Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think if you say any combination of the Bucks, Celtics, Nuggets, Suns, Lakers, I think it's the most
we
parity
didn't
you
even
can
mention
and
we
we
didn't
didn't
even
even mention
mention the
Phoenix.
Suns.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. We didn't even mention Phoenix, Lakers, Nuggets, Bucks, Boston. I think any of those five teams have a shot. For me, it's the Lakers. And to reiterate it one last time, as I just think that I think this team knows LeBron's getting on his last leg. They want to end on a high note. I love to see this team with the full year. Anthony Davis lost some weight. I think a big year could be up for him too. But most importantly, I'm excited to see what happens. And I'm excited the NBA season's back. And
absolutely.
if you would have told me last year it was Nuggets Heat finals, I would say I'd probably disagree, And before before the playoffs even started, if you bet a Nuggets Heat finals, I believe it was 10 to win $200. You know what I mean? So it's
That's
like
crazy.
the NBA, there's a lot of parity. It's fun.
So much parity.
I'm excited, and I'm happy we talked about it today.
Yeah, it's hard not to be excited. I mean, we talk about contenders, but just like last year, you could have a team like the Miami Heat, 8 seed coming up and making it all the way to the finals. I mean,
It's interesting.
it's fun. It's fun now. It's not just a couple dominant teams. There's a lot of great teams out there. So
Yeah.
can't wait to check in on the podcast in a couple weeks and see how we feel about it then. But
Yeah.
this has been a great talk, dude.
Yeah. Great talk, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That is going to wrap up another episode of the White Lightning Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Wheeler. Ben, thank you again for joining. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, do not forget to like and subscribe, share to your friends, to your family, to any sports fan, and have a great rest of your week. I will see you with the NFL episode very soon. Have a good night.